Starting off in what looks like would have been a living room, maybe with an office area. There's a lot of stuff left behind in here. Some very nice architectural features. So far it looks pretty cool.
Tom Wilkins wasn't an urban explorer or a historian or even particularly curious. He was a 49-year-old handyman sent by the new property owner, a developer from out of state who had just bought a long-forgotten lot at the end of Alder Lane. The job was simple: assess the structure and check if anything could be salvaged before demolition. When Tom pulled up in his dented pickup, the place didn't look like much. Trees leaned too close to the house, their roots breaking through the cracked driveway. Vines had swallowed the porch railings, and the once white paint had long since peeled away, leaving behind a dull gray skeleton of a house. The lock had rusted over. He pried the front door open with a crowbar and stepped into a cold wave of must and time. The smell hit first: old paper, mildew, wood long since given up on holding itself together. Dust hung in the air like fog. He didn't expect much inside. Maybe a few broken chairs, rotted floorboards, rat nests. But what he found was something else entirely. The living room looked frozen in time. A red velvet couch sagged under years of decay, its color faded but unmistakable. Two floral armchairs flanked a scratched coffee table, atop which sat a worn guitar case and a stack of dusty vinyls. A gramophone in the corner, real, heavy, ornate, still had its cleaning cloths and replacement needles neatly laid beside it. Everything was still here. Tom stood quietly, trying to make sense of it. The entire house looked like its residents had left one afternoon in 1957 and simply never came back. He moved cautiously, stepping past the collapsed curtain rods and fractured floorboards. In a far corner of the living room, a wooden display cabinet caught his eye. Inside, fragile teacups, little porcelain cats, and delicate glasses. Perfectly arranged, untouched by time. He ran his hand along the glass, dusty but unbroken. Something about the silence made the air heavy. He turned into the kitchen next. The stove was coated in rust, ancient pans still stacked on the burners. A jar of flour sat open, hardened into a brick. Cracked linoleum curled up at the edges like brittle paper. And then he noticed the packaging: tins, cartons, glass jars, all still sealed, still labeled with designs he hadn't seen since his grandmother's pantry. It was as though the house had sealed itself shut the moment they left, keeping everything safe inside. Tom walked into the hallway past framed black and white portraits, pausing when he heard the soft crunch of glass beneath his boot. A shattered perfume bottle, its scent long faded, lay near the foot of the stairs. He looked up. A narrow wooden staircase led to the second floor. Faded carpet ran up the middle, worn thin by countless footsteps. Despite himself, Tom felt a flicker of unease. Why had no one ever returned? What had happened to this family? The developer had said the property had been in legal limbo since the late 70s. Something about taxes, unclear heirs, and a messy estate. But the man sounded more interested in flipping the land than investigating the story. Tom, however, was beginning to think the story mattered. He adjusted his flashlight, rested his hand on the banister, and started to climb. The stairs creaked under Tom's boots, each step sounding louder than it should have. At the top, the narrow hallway split left and right. He turned left first, led by instinct more than choice. The first door opened to what must have been the master bedroom. Light from the broken window filtered through tattered curtains, casting long shadows across the room. Dust floated in the air, undisturbed for decades. Stacks of books covered nearly every surface, beds, chairs, even the dresser. Old hardcovers and paperbacks were piled with care, as if someone had been in the middle of sorting them. Titles caught Tom's eye: The Power of Prayer, Memoirs of an Infantryman, Understanding Addiction. A well-worn Bible sat open on the nightstand. The bed was neatly made. The floral quilt, though faded, still looked soft. An extra pillow sat beside the main one, shaped as if someone had once curled into it nightly. The room felt lived in, not like a place someone had packed up and left, but like they had meant to come back. Tom lowered his voice instinctively, as if he might disturb someone. He stepped around the piles and opened the wardrobe. Inside, a row of neatly hung dresses and men's jackets remained. On the shelf above, a hat box. When he opened it, he found a delicate feathered hat, now brittle with age, and an envelope tucked beside it. He paused, fingers grazing the edge of the envelope. It was addressed in flowing cursive to Eleanor Meyer, no return address, dated July 5th, 1955. Tom hesitated, then slowly he unfolded the letter. The paper crackled with dryness. My dearest Eleanor, I know I've written you too many words and not enough actions, but I want to come home. I want to make it right. If you'll have me, I'll be at the station on Thursday. You only have to say the word. Paul. Tom read it again. A tight feeling formed in his chest. He found 3 more letters in the same box, all from Paul, all unanswered. Back in the hallway, the next door opened into what must have been a second bedroom, maybe for a child or a guest. But like the first, it was stacked with books. A wall-mounted shelf had collapsed under the weight of old newspapers and magazines. Yellowed headlines screamed from the past. Sputnik launched into space. Eisenhower visits France. The war is over. There were no electronics in the room, just stacks and stacks of information, preserved in a kind of quiet reverence. Tom knelt and picked up a notebook buried beneath a pile. It contained handwritten journal entries. Some were lists of books read, others reflections on faith, world events, and even the state of the garden. The hydrangeas didn't bloom this year. I think the soil has turned. The entry was dated 1959. Tom furrowed his brow. 1959? But the developer said the house was vacant since the early 60s. Someone had been here longer than the records claimed. As he moved toward the farthest room, he stepped on a loose floorboard that gave a hollow knock. Curious, he got down and pried it up with his multi-tool. Inside the narrow cavity lay a bundle of more letters, tied with a blue ribbon and a small metal tin. The tin contained a dried corsage, brittle and faded, and a photograph of a man in uniform, grinning with his arm around a woman in a summer dress. The letters were addressed from Paul Meyer to Eleanor, stretching from 1944 to 1957. The last one read, I'm tired, Elle. I don't know how to find my way back anymore. If this is goodbye, know that I never stopped trying to make it home. I hope you found peace where I could not. Tom sat there for a long time, the open house groaning softly around him. The silence wasn't just age. It was sadness, layered into every room, every untouched item. This was more than a forgotten house. It was a love story with no clear ending. Tom descended the stairs slowly, the letter still weighing heavy in his coat pocket. His boots left prints in decades of dust. What began as a routine inspection now felt like trespassing in someone's memories. Back in the hallway, he opened the door to what appeared to be the bathroom. The mirror was clouded, its edges blackened from age. A wooden dressing table had been awkwardly placed next to the bathtub. Odd positioning, but it somehow fit the home's peculiar charm. Drawers creaked as he pulled them open. Inside were boxes packed with women's hats, vintage costume jewelry, and at the very bottom, 3 photo albums wrapped in wax paper. Tom sat on the edge of the tub and flipped through them slowly. Page after page of moments. A couple on a picnic, a man lifting a toddler into the air, a woman reading on the porch. The photos stopped suddenly after the 1950s. The last one was a candid, Eleanor in her garden smiling at something just off frame. Tom closed the album and set it aside. He turned toward the dressing table's top surface. A tray of outdated toiletries, powder compacts, faded lipstick tubes, a cracked glass bottle of perfume still stood there like someone had just finished getting ready. Out of instinct, he uncapped the perfume bottle and gave it a cautious sniff. Faint. Floral. Something like lavender and talcum powder. He was instantly reminded of his grandmother's hugs, of old church pews and family reunions in the summer. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt paused. Moving through the house, he found a short hallway leading to what might have once been a music room or parlor. The door creaked open to reveal a small upright piano against the far wall. Yellowed sheet music still rested on the stand. Dust coated every key and one leg had splintered, leaning it slightly forward like a drunk trying to stay upright. But the piano hadn't been abandoned. Not really. Faint fingerprints were visible in the dust. Tom wiped one key clean and pressed it. A dull note echoed into the silence. The sound sent a chill down his spine. Beside the piano, a small display shelf held a metronome, a cracked metered tuner, and a faded music journal. Inside, entries dated back to 1952. Most were practice notes, scales, fingering drills, song titles, but one entry caught his attention. Paul says my playing fills the room like light. He sat beside me again today, eyes closed, listening. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. There he was again. Paul. Tom felt like he was piecing together a ghost story, but without the ghosts. Just two lives, etched into every corner of this house, not scary, not haunted, but something closer to sacred. He made his way back toward the living room. The light was starting to shift outside, turning amber through the broken blinds. Tom approached the coffee table where the guitar case still rested. He undid the latches. Inside lay a beautifully preserved acoustic guitar, light-colored wood with fine mother-of-pearl inlay. A small tag was tucked under the strings. To Eleanor, for your music and for your heart. P. He set it down gently. Then he noticed the record player. A sleek, mid-century turntable sat beside a pile of vinyl records. Everything from classical to early jazz, even a few comedy albums. He picked one at random. Ella Fitzgerald, Songs in a Mellow Mood. He spun the turntable's platter with his hand. Surprisingly, it still moved. The belt had stiffened but wasn't completely ruined. He didn't dare try plugging it in. He knew better, but he imagined the room once full of music, laughter, voices, dancing feet on the wood floor. In the corner stood the gramophone, a true antique. Its brass horn gleamed even under the dust. Tom opened the side drawer. It still held cleaning cloths, replacement needles, and a small maintenance manual. The care and maintenance, all of it spoke of people who loved their things, who intended to return. But something stopped them. Tom exhaled and stepped back, overwhelmed. That's when he noticed a dark envelope stuck between two records at the bottom of the pile. He slid it out. It wasn't sealed. Inside was a single page, handwritten. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't stay. I know what I've left behind, and it breaks my heart. The house is yours, Eleanor. Everything in it is yours. If you ever come back, you'll find me in every room. Forgive me, Paul. Tom stood there, letter trembling in his hands. This wasn't just a place forgotten by time, it was left behind on purpose. Tom stepped out onto the front porch as the sun dipped low behind the trees. The wind had picked up, rustling the dry branches above. He sat on the crumbling wooden step, hands resting on his knees, staring out at the overgrown lawn. In his pocket were 3 letters. 2 from Paul, 1 unsigned, but clearly his last. In the house, the air was still thick with dust, history, and the weight of things left unsaid. He lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done in years. This was supposed to be a job, show up, inspect, report back. The place was set to be torn down in a month to make room for a new subdivision, 24 modern townhouses, each with synthetic lawns and matching mailboxes. But now he knew. This wasn't just a property, it was someone's unfinished life. Tom rose and walked once more through the house, taking everything in with new eyes. He returned to the bedroom, ran his fingers across the dresser, and sat on the edge of the still-made bed. He opened the nightstand drawer. Inside, he found a small, leather-bound notebook. Not a journal, this one was different. It was a ledger, a record of household expenses, holiday gift lists, and birthdays. The final entry was dated October 15, 1961. Paul left yesterday, said he needed time. I didn't ask how much, I just said I'd wait. There were no entries after that. Tom stayed seated, letting the silence settle. Then, almost absently, he turned the last few blank pages of the notebook until something caught his eye. On the back cover, written in faint pencil, "Forgive me, Elle, I got lost." That was it. No big revelation, no dramatic clue, just sorrow, preserved like everything else in this place. He stood, walked to the kitchen, and opened the drawer where he'd found the packaging earlier. He noticed that most items were stored with intention. Nothing was shoved away or abandoned in chaos. Whoever left this place did so with care. Tom realized he wasn't the first person to walk away from something heavy, but this house didn't deserve to be erased. Not like this. Back outside, he sat in his truck and stared at the house through the windshield. He pulled out his phone and dialed the developer's number. "Hey, it's Tom Wilkins." "Hey, Tom, you finished the inspection? How bad is it?" Tom paused. "Structurally? Yeah, it's rough. Mold in the kitchen, foundational issues, electrical's outdated." "So a teardown then?" "Hold on," Tom said. "What, there's more. The house is full. Furniture, books, records, letters, personal stuff." A beat of silence. "Okay, but the family's long gone, right? It's just junk." "No," Tom said firmly. "It's not junk. It's a time capsule. Somebody loved that house. You should see the music room, the library upstairs. Hell, there's even a gramophone in the living room still intact." The developer sighed. "Tom, I don't deal in ghosts. I deal in square footage. The sale's already closed. The permits are in motion. We break ground in 5 weeks." "I think you should give me more time," Tom said. "Let me find out if anyone's still connected to this place. There might be a descendant, an heir." "You're not a PI, Tom. You're a contractor." Tom stared out at the house, jaw set. Not today. Over the next 2 weeks, Tom made calls, visited the county clerk's office, and pored over dusty archive boxes. And just when he thought he'd hit a dead end, he found her. Margaret Meyer, age 67, niece of Eleanor Meyer, living 2 hours away in a small town near Harrisburg. He drove out to see her, uninvited but hopeful. She greeted him with polite suspicion. "I'm sorry to bother you," Tom said on her porch, "but I think I found something that belongs to your family." She let him talk. He told her about the house, about Eleanor, about Paul, about the letters, the photos, the books, the piano, the perfume. She listened, silent. Then she reached into her own memory and pulled out fragments. Eleanor's soft voice, the smell of cookies at Christmas, a garden full of sunflowers. She'd been a little girl when Eleanor disappeared from the family's life. There had been rumors, arguments, pain that no one wanted to speak of. "I thought she moved to Chicago," Margaret whispered. "That's what my father told us." "She never did," Tom said. "She stayed in that house until something changed." Margaret came to Alder Lane the following weekend. She stepped through the doorway slowly, reverently, her hand covering her mouth. She cried when she saw the piano. Tom stood back and let her wander. Later they sat on the porch together, watching the sun go down, just as he had on his first day. She was always quiet, Margaret said softly. Gentle. But she was sad too. I think she waited for someone who never made it back. Tom nodded. So what happens now? She asked. He looked out at the trees, then back at the house. That depends on you. Margaret thought for a moment. I want to preserve it, she said. At least part of it. Maybe turn it into a historical space. For the community. For memory. Tom smiled. I'd be honored to help. 6 months later, the house on Alder Lane still stands. The living room has been carefully cleaned. The gramophone sits in its corner, restored. Eleanor's books are cataloged in the local library's archive. Her letters and photos, now framed, tell a story no one ever fully understood, until now. Visitors come occasionally, students, artists, locals. They walk the creaking floors. They see the worn guitar, the feathered hat, the bottles of perfume still faint with scent. They read Paul's final letter.